proves we can't ever really know what's going on.
Appearances can be deceptive.
Tom, I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.
All right, welcome to Framework. I'm John, one of the hosts of Framework. With me, as always, the other host of Framework, Al. How are you today, Al?
I'm all right. Fighting off some bug that my kid gave me, and here to talk about the Ladykillers, the debatably the nadir of the Coen brothers' whole oeuvre.
That's right. It's Ladykillers Day, a film that just not many people are talking about or have any reason to watch in 2024. And joining us to discuss this film, the I believe 11th in the Coen brothers' filmography, is returning champion David Sarnecki. Welcome back, sir.
You know, usually I have some sort of a joke or some entertainment to say hi to the audience, but I'm not going to do it for this one.
Yeah, usually the Coens have more jokes than I would feel.
Not worth it. Actually, no. Before we start, I was going to tell you guys, I was going to shock you. I really like this movie.
Yeah,
a lot. I thought it was very entertaining.
You mentioned this, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. One of the great villain entrances of all time. I absolutely love it.
Well,
I do like that.
My contention is going to be everything good about this, everything great about this movie, everything good about this movie is all wrapped up in Tom Hanks's performance, and basically nothing else works in the entire thing for me.
All right.
Okay, so I mean, I guess that is what this film, I think most people remember it for, if anything. I mean, maybe being one of the worst Coen Brothers movies, is that it has a very weird Tom Hanks performance at the center, and this is kind of like, this is 2003 Tom Hanks, so he's basically a hit machine at this point. He's making movies like Castaway, I think he's like 5 years off of Saving Private Ryan. He is the biggest star in Hollywood, kind of in an unquestioned financial way. And, of course, very respected, and he decides to make The Ladykillers. It makes sense he'd want to do a Coen Brothers film, of course.
Sure.
They're kind of riding high somewhat, even after Intolerable Cruelty. But,
well, it's the man who wasn't there into Intolerable Cruelty. That's the one, you said this is the one nobody's talking about in 2024. I feel like this gets talked about more than the man who wasn't there because it gets identified as the worst and it gets part of that conversation. Man who wasn't there lives up to its name, and just people forget its existence entirely.
That's true, but I do think people like that movie if you push them. If they remember it, they're like, oh yeah. They may not remember it well, but it's in the good category in their sort of unconsidered mental.
The sickos that actually find it and watch it are the type that would then would profess that it's a masterpiece out of just sheer perversity.
But this one is just kind of filed into the bad and
Yes.
and dismissed. And I do think that people like the Hanks performance. I think, right? I mean, I've never heard anyone talk shit about it. That's for sure.
No, well, I recall it being sort of a thing in the marketing that it's Tom Hanks doing his villain turn. Sometimes the beloved actor,
it's a real Training Day situation.
Here's Harris. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Training Day is another one. And then watching that now, it doesn't come through at all. Because yes, I can tell that he is, objectively speaking, the villain of this piece, but also he's the protagonist of the movie. He's not, I don't hate him or even really dislike him at any point. I like him better than the kindly old church lady that is ostensibly the figure of moral virtue here. I want him to kill her.
Well, hold on. You guys keep saying Tom Hanks. What are you talking about?
Professor Goldthwait Higgensdorf Dorr. Is that his name?
Dorr, PhD. Yeah.
Wasn't it I could have sworn it was Alec Guinness that I was seeing.
Right. Of course, this is the remake of a 1955 film.
That's what we're talking about today? Oh,
damn it.
Oh,
David.
Oh, jeez.
I know better. You couldn't find the Lady Killers 1955 to watch.
That's
I
right.
couldn't.
No, I watched them both.
Oh, you found okay. I meant
the
to. Couldn't
reason
find it.
I accept the whole reason I accepted this podcast is because of that Alec Guinness introduction, where you see the several eerie shots of him approaching the house, and then that wonderful moment where he turns around. He's got those false teeth, and I very much enjoyed the 1955. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then last night I watched the Coen Brothers remake, and it could only suffer in the comparison.
Okay.
Is all I can say. I'm not saying the 55 was a classic, but it, boy, did that do no favors having that fresh in my mind watching the Coen Brothers movie.
I could say the same about the entire filmography up to this point of the Coen Brothers. It's all better versions of this, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They're so, we were just talking about it. They're so funny in No Country for Old Men, not a comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
And here they're trying so hard to be funny, and I just want everyone to die as soon as humanly possible. Every character that comes on screen, I want them to die more and more and more. And yeah, it was pretty tough.
Yeah. That
It is weird how these performances don't work, actually. Aside from Hanks, I think everyone's kind of just like, why aren't you funny in this, J.K. Simmons? What's going on? I don't get it.
That's the movie, right? That's the special effect. That's the feature. That's why you're there, and none of it works, which is such a shame because they're a lot of good actors, and you can see the version of this movie that did work. They just didn't shoot that.
It is strange. Like, I mean, I think you identified the problem here. Is this is a movie with a cast of basically consists of 6 very broad caricatures, and only one of them is actually funny.
Oh man!
Laughs.
When they cut to what's his name, Gary from Remember the Titans, and his mouth is wide open.
On this podcast, he's Opie from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, sorry. I just like. I had to cover my head in my hands. Like we're going Looney Tunes with these. Okay.
Yeah.
They've successfully made Looney Tunes characters.
Raising Arizona is live action Looney Tunes in a really successful, miraculous way that has a heart to it. Like that's what's weird about this. Okay. I mean, I think it makes most sense to compare it directly to Intolerable Cruelty. That's one where I'm more on the pro side than the median film dork. But those two, they share an issue, I think. It's just as goofy as Intolerable Cruelty and just as heartless, really, because I don't buy any of the morality play stuff at all.
No.
But they're in the similar place of like on the scale, they're broad, goofy comedies. There's the ones that actually have like heart and soul to them, which is like Raising Arizona and Oh Brother on one end. And then on the other end, you have Burn After Reading, which is incredibly heartless and cruel, but more successful and funny.
Very funny. Yeah.
And stuck in the middle, you have Intolerable Cruelty and Ladykillers, which also don't have any dramatic heft to them, but don't feel like they go far enough. Like they try and hedge with, and Hudsucker, I guess, is in there too. I like that. They go for kind of a happy ending, or like sin is punished, virtue is rewarded, sort of. And
right.
But in the middle there, they don't. It doesn't land for me in any of the cases. I actually think in Intolerable Cruelty, the ending works a little bit for me more than this one, because I don't buy that the Coens believe in this Old Testament sort of version of karma that's going to wash away the sins of man or whatever and reward this woman's piety, like, at all. And in Intolerable Cruelty, like, again, it's partly because they don't. I don't care about their like venality. Like, yeah, I guess Miles Massey is a bad person who learns to be a better person, sort of. Yeah. But the way he's bad is so cartoony and unreal. Like, they live in this little hermetic world. None of it matters to me. So them getting together at the end, it's less that I'm like, oh, I'm invested in this as a romantic coupling. It's like, oh, here's 2 cynical people who have decided, perhaps against their better judgment, to be optimistic and forego cynicism. And there is a little kernel of something there. And there is absolutely no kernel of anything to the like resolution here of these bad guys getting what's coming to them.
Well,
the resolution. Sorry, the resolution here is that some Christian university is going to get $1.6 million. Great.
Yeah, a famously racist one.
Yeah.
That's going to get it from an old black lady.
That actually kind of annoyed me. I didn't like that. But
I think that's the cynicism, actually, of the Coens.
yeah, you think that was
You know,
intentional? Okay.
I don't. They don't give a fuck about that. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is loaded with gospel music and hymns, and it seems like it's kind of following in the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" footsteps, but it's all applied haphazardly,
Yeah,
like
to such lesser effect.
Yeah, like it's none of it really lands. It all feels like a wash of gospel music. You would think that they were taken by it, but I think the fact that none of it really matters, like none of it really helps the narrative or what you're seeing on screen, it kind of betrays that they don't give a shit about this. That's my reading of it. I don't know. It doesn't work at any rate. But
it is it's a very interesting change because I don't know. Have you two seen the 55 movie?
No, I really wanted to because its reputation is really good. People say it totally works. Yeah.
I'll just speak as if the audience hasn't.
Well, I intended to do it, but I reversed the order on you, and the Coen Brothers one took the wind out of my sails. Like, I'm not going to pay another $4.99 to rent the other one now. Like,
I just want to point out that I'm the guest has done the most research for this podcast. Just pointing that out. But, I would recommend seeing it. I'm not going to promise too much. It's functionally very much the same story. It's just a fascinating example of the differences, the small tweaks that can make the same thing work better. Like, for example, in the 55 version, the woman it's all in England. She's a very old English sweet woman, very naive, very sweet, very naive. And they really pour that on. And she's just more likable inherently because of those traits. I wouldn't say she's incredibly likable, but it just works better there. And in this version, they did make a lot of their own choices, and like being in the South, the woman is now a black, gospel-loving church. That's a choice. Gospel music, it's all their choice. But like you said, I don't know that it adds up to much.
I assume that the Ealing Studios British version is more authentically British.
Very much so, obviously. Yeah. I mean, it's Alec Guinness with false teeth and all that.
I would imagine it has sort of a Tales from the Crypt quality, like an Amicus anthology horror film as well. And I feel like the sort of poetic justice idea might play better in that context than whatever's going on here. Possibly.
One of the interesting things is that, you're sitting there and you can't help but compare them. And the Tom Hanks character, his obsession with Edgar Allan Poe and poetry,
I like that.
None of that is with Alec Guinness. They added all of that. And I was sitting there the whole time just thinking, okay, they're trying to give this guy something more. They're trying to give him some texture. And I figured plot-wise they were doing like a cask of what's the one at the wall where she walls up the
Cask of Amontillado. He references it here, which is pretty funny, actually.
They reference
that is actually J.K. Simmons' funniest bit. Is when he just immediately signs on to that. Oh yeah, he's the easiest thing in the world. Mountain Girl can outsource.
That'd be no problem. We can do that.
The phrase "outsource the manacles" is okay. That did make me grin.
So yeah, at least we did get one good joke out of that inclusion. But once again, I'd be fascinated to hear what you think after watching the 55 version, because it feels like much ado about nothing as far as the changes that were made and the additions they tried to.
Well, what I was assuming there is that the setting works better in England than here, because the Coen Brothers clearly have some sort of like affection from the South, but they are not Southerners, and this does not use that setting nearly as effectively as Oh Brother.
No,
and like I said, the change to make her an old, a Southern church lady, like that is an archetype that should be pretty sympathetic, but this kind of church lady, she's not even that kindly. Like, she's judgmental and she's dumb and she's boring, worst of all.
Do you think, I was going to say, so what do you think it is about her? Because I guess you just put your finger on it. She is a bit boring. She's judgmental and all those things. So
dumb's the big one for me. I mean, I guess that she's supposed to be kind of a sweetheart in her relationship to
she's not sweet
cartoon character, but not really. No. It's a weird decision. And I think that as a result, this is the only Coen Brothers movie I'd say that like kind of openly flirts with racist caricatures. It does a lot, kind of. There's some stuff in here that I'm sort of like, this is definitely the most N-bombs in a Coen Brothers film. I don't know that that's the kind of thing they should be making, because it does feel like tourism a little bit into this world. They don't have a clean grasp on it or opinion of it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess we should talk about Marlon Wayans then.
Yeah. Like, did they just cast Marlon Wayans and let him do his thing, or
that would be my guess.
They didn't build a character for him.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's something there that he's a, young caricature of black youth culture, steeped in gangster rap and all that of the time, and how that there's a kernel of an idea there for how that clashes with the old church lady and with the sort of, white liberalness of Garth Pancake.
Some misjudged shit in this film, man. There's some very odd.
That's the stuff, but that's the worst stuff in the movie. Like it, watching
those
Wayans
two
and Simmons bicker is so not fun and not funny.
Uh-huh.
Like watching the dude and Walter bicker is so much fun. The Coens can do that. I think this is clearly meant to be in the same vein, but there's no like undercurrent of actual. I mean, love. I guess is there's a sort of familial bond with those Bowlers and Lebowski, right? And these guys just don't like each other. That's as simple as it is.
There's also cleverness to the dialogue. There's also they're taking joy in writing that. There's no joy in this. This is just sort of bickering and remonstrative, and it makes you like everyone less the more you hear from them.
You know what the real issue is when you think about it, Walter and the dude separately as characters are just the best. You just love these goofy weirdos. Mm-hmm. These two, I hate them both.
Yeah.
So when they're sparring with each other, it's just like go in a closet. I can't deal with this. You're both so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, these two are the worst. This is the worst thing in the movie, I think. Like you said, Al, this is sort of the thing that sinks the rest of it. And the problem is the rest of it kind of doesn't really rise above. I mean, Hanks tries. Hanks gives it a real go.
Hanks is having a lot of fun in this movie. Like the problem, it's more than I'm having at any given point is the issue.
I mean, I ultimately think that Professor Dorr doesn't really work as a character, and a big part of that is that he's just too likable because he's Tom Hanks. There's no danger from him, that's for goddamn sure.
Oh sure,
he's not going to kill the old lady. You don't believe that at any moment.
We talked a lot about Tom Cruise getting a lot of juice by playing Vincent by going against type, and that really worked well. Would either of you argue that Tom Hanks playing the villain here did much of anything?
He's having fun. That's it feels like an SNL character. They feel like 6 SNL characters. Really,
when you guys see Alec Guinness, you're going to be like, "Oh, he was aiming for Alec Guinness, who hams it up. He's got false teeth, he's got hair in his eyes, and he's just wonderful talk performance."
You cannot accuse Hanks of underplaying anything in this.
No,
it's not definitely not the problem that he didn't bring enough.
He goes big.
Enough ham to the picnic.
He goes big.
Just the image of him, I'm actually quite taken with the just sort of the cream cape get up and the ridiculous Colonel Sanders mustache situation. The whole thing. The Tulane Humanities professor vibe. It's all of that works for me. I like watching him go. I wish he had more going on. I don't really get an answer if he's like just. This is all a put on. I don't really get what his deal is, and I think it's because ultimately these characters are so shallow. They are SNL characters.
I would split the hair as he has plenty more than enough going on. There's just nothing for that to bounce off of that works. That's I think that the kernel of the idea is that his overwrought verbosity and saying always using 58 words where 2 would do. Is going to clash in a humorous fashion with like the really rough, simple vulgarity of Marlon Wayans and the just immediately like agreeable, sure, whatever thing of Garth Pancake. And somehow in the scenes, none of that it doesn't produce any sort of amusing friction.
No.
they just both kind of sit there on their own thing doing their thing. And every time Marlon Wayans does something, I'm like, God, just shut up. Like,
Yeah, that Waffle House sketch is a great case in point. Actually, it's sort of the microcosm of the film as a whole. Really, I mean, it is also the point I think where the movie really turns, because I'm kind of like rooting for it for the first 40 minutes or so. I'm sort of just like, well, I'm feeling this. This is maybe better. Like, look what Hanks is doing. They know how to shoot an image. There's choices here. Around that Waffle House scene in the introduction of Mountain Girl, and just they keep trying to make you brought your bitch to the Waffle House into.
They're trying to make fetch happen.
He says it 3 or 4 times. He said,
I think.
Yeah,
and it's
more
funnier
mustard on
every
it.
time.
Yeah,
I think that's the theory, but it is really like it is striking because you can feel them trying to like this is going to be like you're entering a world of pain. It's
this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass.
It's a memorable turn of phrase. It's vulgar and it's
I'm laughing just thinking about that.
But it's like watching. I mean, not to let's continue to crap on Marlon Wayans. It's like when you're watching Scary Movie 4 do a version of a gag, you can tell like, oh yes, this is the thing, a gag that worked in Airplane or Top Secret or whatever, and they're doing like a knockoff version of it that is just, it's weird to see the Coens doing that with their own material.
Yeah.
I just don't get why this doesn't work. Is the thing? Well, I mean, it's quite plain why it doesn't work. I'm just wondering what happened. Like how did the guys who made all these movies, like it kind of without it, like until these two, I feel like it's just been obvious and plain the ways the movies work. Even the ones that you're less into, your Hudsuckers and Man Who Wasn't There, are kind of operating on a level of competence that these two aren't hitting.
If I have to put my finger on one thing about this that puts it aside, even from like Hudsucker and Intolerable Cruelty, which, like I said, just as goofy, just as lacking in dramatic or emotional weight to me. But this feels so much slower paced than those. The laughs are so much sparser. Like if I describe the plot of this movie, it will sound sufficiently madcap, but the scenes themselves do not have like the rapid fire clip that you get from Clooney doing his really like fast talking Cary Grant shtick, or Jennifer Jason Leigh doing hers version of that. And so these scenes just seem to crawl from one like weak punchline to the next.
It is sort of, I mean, the pleasures of the film, such as they are pretty much limited to what is going to come out of Hanks's mouth. And it is often sort of defined by sort of being languid and overwritten and just sort of, like you said, 52 words when 3 would do. And
that's usually like, right. That's their bag though,
like it should be. And he's the best part in the movie, he's the only thing that works at all. But even he, you want more, you want the great Tom Hanks Coen brothers collaboration here. Cause like I said, he's riding high at this point. And
it feels like it robbed us of a better one down the line too. That like he could have been, and I mean, could he have been F. Murray Abraham in Inside Llewyn Davis? He could have been somebody in Hail Caesar,
Yeah. I mean, he's a busy guy for sure. It's tough to get Tom Hanks in your film, probably, no matter what. But I would like to see it try again. I don't know. You never heard a bad story about them working together. Obviously, that's not really their vibe. But still, yeah.
It looks like Hanks had a blast, but I don't think that anybody was happy with the reception of this one.
Yeah. This has some of the regulars. There's Stephen Root. They're popping up. But yeah, no one was looking to recreate the Ladykillers magic, as you say.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
There's a real what felt to me like a deficiency in sight gags, if that makes sense. There's a huge amount of potential for comedy in this movie, and they just didn't. Like, do you guys remember the moment where the Korean major, is that his name? Korean guy?
The general, I call him. Yeah.
General. He's downstairs and he's been caught smoking. So what's her name gives him a look, and then she leaves frame, and he like pulls the cigarette out of his mouth just with his tongue that he was hiding. That was probably the most successful joke in the whole movie for me, but not a lot of that. There's just yelling at each other. That's not funny.
The idea again of the general like being this counterpoint to Hanks using 58 words, is he's always only going to use 3 words max. And on the page, I think I if I was reading the script, I would chuckle at the thing of when he asks him, like, "You're a Buddhist? Might there not be some middle way?" And he thinks about it and says, "Must float like a leaf on river of life, and kill old lady." That's being like one of the only like lines that guy has in the whole movie. Like on the page, that makes me laugh, and then in the scene, somehow I'm just like, my head is drooping.
He's the most successful of the crew, I think. Maybe just by not saying anything, and
no, it's such a low bar.
Yeah, that's the thing. But just the way they've decorated this character with his his ascot and Hitler mustache, and doing weird nostril kung fu in his opening scene, like it's. I mean, again, not the best racial dynamic in this, but it's not actively bad like the other 3. I guess like he's kind of this is the faintest of praise I can muster for this guy. I do like what he does with the cigarette.
Well, you never find yourself muttering at that character to shut up.
At least the dumb character doesn't talk too much, and when he does talk, every once in a while he has a good idea, which was it's not much, but it's just a little something that makes me not despise his presence.
The simplest of ideas for your dumb guy. Yeah, I mean, they've done dumb guys before, as with many of these things, and this is the dumbest of the guys, and it suffers for that. Yeah.
I mean, once again, I'm contrasting here against the other 2, so you take what you get.
I will say, like, okay, I mean, another thing that hurts the Lump character is his accidental death. It feels like the weakest of all of them.
Was that his name?
His name is Lump. Yes.
Lump. Can you guys? Sorry. Can you? I'm confused in my mind because I got 2 versions. How did he die?
He shot himself in he went to shoot Professor Dorr, and it misfired, right. And then he looked down the barrel of the gun and shoots himself in the face. It's the second movie in a row where they've had one of their villains, I guess, shoot themselves in the face on accident.
That's not how the muscle character dies in the first one, and I thought that was one. Like, what? Why was one chamber empty? Are we supposed to?
Misfired. It's not.
Tom Hanks planned that. Is we're supposed to think?
I guess it's the hand of God. Like it wasn't set up the way. Like, we talked about Blood Simple. Like, that movie is masterful in the way it sets up us knowing exactly how many bullets are in this revolver at any given time and how that plays into like 3 different scenes in different ways.
Right.
So they can do it. They can do all this stuff, but they didn't in this one. That's what's maddening about it.
That's what would have made this work, I think, for me, is if they had done thriller shit here. If the bad guys had seemed dangerous at any point, if they'd seemed like Breaking Bad characters, even, which are funny characters, but you can be scared of them. Like if there was tension to these scenes, where they got to climb into the tunnel that is lined with explosives because the detonator is not working. There's no tension in that.
No, of course not. But there's I don't know if
there was tension there.
I don't know if you could do a gritty reboot of the Ladykillers from the Alec Guinness version.
You could do a black comedy version of it. This is a black comedy. You can do something.
Technically speaking, yes.
Yeah.
You guys might not believe this. The last 20 minutes of the original is more or less what you're asking for. It's a showdown between all the goons.
I'm sure it's better. I mean, that's its reputation.
Not just better, but specifically
more in line with
moments of tension that you're looking for. So that's what's heartbreaking. Is a movie that was made in 1955 is better in, frankly, every way. Maybe cinematography is kind of a default for the Coen brothers, but
actually, that my prescription, by contrast to John's, for saving this movie is that it needs more lively cinematography, like a la Hudsucker. Raising Arizona obviously sets the bar very high, but Hudsucker and Intolerable Cruelty, even, like, they have panache and energy to them, and that's what this movie is missing. To me, is energy. Like, if you look at individual screenshots of this movie, everything looks pretty good. Like, the costumes look good, the sets are all fine, and all that. But in motion, it's very languid compared to those other madcap comedies, and I think that's what this movie needs. If it's going to be this goofy and pointless, it needs some energy to it.
Some Barry Sonnenfeld as the director of photography would have really helped. That's for sure.
Supposedly he was supposed to direct this. They wrote this for him to direct, and then he went and did something else that was actually like way more successful. Men in Black, possibly.
Well, that makes sense. Actually, that makes
it would have been later than that.
Yeah, I totally see this as a Barry Sonnenfeld film, and he's done shitty versions of this too. Actually, the Tim Allen film that was about 9/11.
That might have actually been the one he was making instead of this.
I don't know if that's more successful. I guess no, that would have been earlier. I would have been a lot earlier because it got canceled for 9/11.
For Big Trouble. Yeah,
it was supposed to come out in September of 2001.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no.
Or maybe he did. Maybe he did. The way Hollywood works. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Supposedly they were doing a writing job for their friend here, and then they ended up doing it themselves, which explains why it doesn't feel as inspired.
Makes sense. Yeah.
If you guys were in the shoes of these characters, would you kill the old lady?
I assume so. I mean,
yeah, I guess.
From this far in.
Yeah, why not?
If I'm in the shoes of these characters, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, which one am I, though?
Dumb enough that...
If I'm Garth Pancake, why not?
But as far as lump in cinematography goes, the only time when the camera work is like energetic and interesting is his introduction, like the point of view football game.
Yeah.
It feels really incongruous with the rest of the movie, but it's like, hey, this is interesting on a filmmaking level, at least.
Yeah.
I suppose. It's not funny, though.
Nope.
None of those are funny. J.K. Simmons' introduction is him like killing a dog through his incompetence. That's not great. That's
but also by his incompetence manifests by having an authentic World War I era gas mask that I guess still has trace elements of mustard gas in it, and putting that on a dog.
I think it just suffocated the dog. Is the idea?
I think it just
maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. The point it's a tortured setup either way for a payoff of a dead dog.
What a crime this movie committed by wasting Bruce Campbell to have him just
in a wordless
like a slightly concerned glance is his entire role.
Make Bruce Campbell one of these guys.
He could have been Professor Door.
He would have ate. He would have had so much fun. And he would have been fun to watch, and I wouldn't have suffered.
I mean,
does that make the movie better? I mean, I don't know. We've been saying Hanks is the only thing in this that is at all okay to watch. If you just take him out and put Bruce Campbell in there.
When you say, does that make the movie better, what are you saying? Like a better actor, better performance?
No, Bruce Campbell as in the Tom Hanks role.
It lowers what the movie has to achieve, I would say. Like if you're going in knowing you're seeing a movie where the biggest star is Bruce Campbell, that will change your expectations, even if the Coen brothers are doing it.
That's true. Possibly for the better in this case. I mean, it does feel a little risky to start messing with the one thing in this movie that works.
Right.
My question was going to be, is this movie better if they just put John Goodman in that role? Because it's
Garth
kind of a John
Pancake?
Goodman role. No, and Professor Door.
Oh, well,
The big loquacious Southern gentleman is usually John Goodman in their movies, I feel.
I mean, like you said, it's tough to kind of just take the one thing that works out and be like, can this help? Even if it does rephrase the film in a way. I mean, Goodman, of course, can do that. I'm always down for a Goodman starring role. Or he could play one of the guys. Or, I mean, I think the only way to really make these characters work is to rewrite fucking all of them. Except Professor Door. But if you just did like Bruce Campbell, John Goodman, and I don't know, let's say Buscemi, and I don't know, any of their guys, make Stephen Root the fifth one, or Turturro, or William H. Macy. I think that seems like that would be great. That would be a lot of fun. I would like to see that. Maybe you end up with the Monuments Men, but it would be the thing I'd want to see.
I mean, Stephen Root could do the professor role too, like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, probably not in 2000. You're not giving him that in 2004 or whatever. But
or now,
now we know. Yeah. But we know well enough now. Yes, that we know better at this point that he could do a very fun version of this.
I can beat my drum that he should have played the Colonel Tom Parker role in Elvis that Tom Hanks played. It would have made that film work a lot better, I think.
I guess. I mean, and I still think you're probably right about that. It's not that Stephen Root's a better actor than Tom Hanks necessarily, but I think he can out Southern Tom Hanks on any day of the week.
I could see in the original, the Bruiser role is a very large, like massive. He's cast because he's supposed to be muscle, right?
Right.
It's a large mash of English gentlemen. So I could see Goodman playing that role pretty well of the dim-witted, strong man. I don't know why they made him just this guy who's incredibly stupid. That was an interesting change.
A contrast to the professor is the only thing I can come up with, but it just doesn't.
I mean, the professor's
They don't sell
stupid too. He's erudite, but he's a buffoon as well. He's a
Yeah,
he's a
they're
weird
all
nerd.
they're all cartoons.
dumb. Everyone's fucking dumb in this movie. Every single character.
IBS is not funny, by the way. I just discovered that.
No, God,
They think
why
it's
is this in the
really,
film?
really funny, and it's just not.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's shit jokes. It is like recurring, multiple, constant shit jokes. And
I think talking about it a lot makes it funnier, and it never gets there. I mean, I guess it's all sort of tortured setup for the one shot of he's carrying the bags to the car because he's betrayed them.
Yeah.
And he's having a little IBS attack, so he's making
That's
his
it.
goofy faces. And then when Mountain Girl turns back and sees him making a face, she thinks he's having the IBS attack, but he's actually being garroted by the general.
That
And,
was
like-
the point of 5 minutes of comedy death screen time to give us one gag.
To give us that little drop of juice was what all that squeeze was for. It's very much not worth it.
yeah, and it's more material that J.K. Simmons. It's a bummer to see him blowing it. You know, to see him delivering bad work. That is a rare sight. You know, he's a pretty reliable actor with almost anything you throw at him. He may not be excellent at every film, but he's going to nail. He'll nail your insurance commercial just fine. You know, but I'm sure he's great in Red One as
That's
Santa
what I'm
Claus.
saying. Do you blame him, or do you?
I can't. He's too good an actor and everything else.
I'm assuming he gave them exactly what they wanted.
I mean,
Yeah, what? No, I don't think anybody. I mean, we gave Marlon Wayne some crap, but I think he did what they asked him to do, probably.
Right.
And
yeah.
we know, like J.K. Simmons, Stephen Root, Tom Hanks, all way too reliable to say that they are the ones failing the assignment here.
Right.
I do like Stephen Root's one big scene where he gets bribed with $100. That's kind of funny.
All right, I'm about out of stuff. I mean, the only thing I could reiterate is that the old lady, like as a straight woman, even lacks, like, you know. The straight person still needs to bring some comedy to it or accent to the comedy in some way, and in a way that she's just kind of a wall.
You guys you're really going to be blown away by the contrast of how nothing this woman's performance is. No offense to her. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but I didn't particularly like her. She's not particularly sympathetic.
No,
It's tough to anchor your whole movie around that.
I think she got like award nominated too. Like it's not that.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I feel like the Coens just kind of like, well, clearly this is a good film. The Coens made it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that got this movie across a little bit. But I don't know. The market quickly corrected. It was one of their worst films very fast, and that is its only reputation today.
yeah. I say, we'll do a whole rankings episode at the end, but it's a spoiler. Yes, I'm going to stick with the consensus view. This is their worst.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I usually try and write some interesting notes just to throw in at the end. Didn't find much on this one.
It's a movie everyone kind of is like politely agreeing to forget.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
At one point, Tom Hanks's character, I believe he says that they were digging and they found some natural gas, a pocket of natural gas. Is that what he says?
Something like that.
And he explains to her that he could smell it because of the rotten eggs, which you wouldn't be able to smell in natural gas because we add that. But he was bullshitting, so I'll forgive that, I guess. My bigger problem is their plan is to blow up the tunnel, and that's going to be scot-free. Nobody's going to ever know. But wouldn't that just leave a trench between the house and the casino?
We don't really know the terrain per se.
Yeah, I think it depends.
So
It's not that big of a tunnel, so it wouldn't be that big of a.
It seemed like a strange plan to me. I don't. In the original, there's no tunnel. There's none of that. It's just a robbery. They rob a place, and
why do they need to be in that particular apartment?
They're in the old lady's house because they need to plan the job, and they can see everything they need to from the house.
Well,
And
that's an addition.
That's
Okay.
simpler.
that's
Okay.
basically functionally the purpose of it. They just proximity.
Well, this is the problem. I mean, it seems like that is that's all there for function then. Like this, like you've created this riverboat gambling, elaborate Ocean's 11 plot line that they sort of half commit to. They don't really play it out,
They added all this. They added all this stuff to seemingly justify the premise, which didn't need to be justified. It was fine. It's fine.
But if you're going to add that, do something with it. Make some heist movie stuff. Some tension scenes where they're about to have to set the detonator to blow up their tunnel, and then
John,
get buried alive.
They did that.
I want to watch.
He was
in
the tunnel, and he went, "Oh!"
Yeah, he had an IBS face. And then he sort of shot out scene? Like a Wile E. Coyote. Yeah. It's it's bad. It's a bad use of their time. And yeah, man. Like, look. You said this would be a short one, Al. I was like, I think there's some juice. No, you were right, man. We're like running out here. This is
40 minutes.
It's a bummer. It should be better. The Tom Hanks performance deserves something better to exist within, and it's kind of the only real pleasure of this. He has done this performance a few times since in Elvis and Cloud Atlas, which are more successful films, I guess.
Cloud Atlas is all over the map. It's hard to say.
It's a more successful film than this.
Tom Hanks completionism is the reason to watch this. That's the best reason. It's a better reason than Coen Brothers completionism, I would say, actually.
Yeah. Well, Hanks is doing his thing here. This is at the time kind of a unique Tom Hanks performance. Yeah. But now it isn't, and now it's just a bad film.
If I could leave you with one impression, I really wish that after this Coen Brothers festival that you guys are doing, that you circle back and watch the 55 version. I really do think it's worth your time.
Okay, I wanted to. I was going to do it this week. I was sat down to do it. I could not find it on streaming. Where did you see it?
When I was screwing her, I don't know what's there. I'll send it to you after this. But
okay.
You have to talk to the wall.
No. It's legit. It's the problem is Canada. We have different sources. Yeah. Like we don't have HBO Max. We have something called Crave, which is all the anyway. It's a lot of that stuff when I'm talking about where I'm seeing things.
Impressive! You guys found a worse name than Max.
Crave. I don't like that. Anyway, so my point that I made when I was joking around at the beginning of the podcast is still true. Is that right away in the 55 version, they really make a meal out of this introduction to not just the woman arriving home, but Alec Guinness following her, and you see him in silhouette, and he's got this jacket on, he's got this hat. You don't see him yet. You just see this dark, shadowy, menacing figure following her, and you see him from many different angles. And it's like a 2-minute introduction. They really dig into it. And then she opens the door, and he turns around and takes off the hat. He's got this wonderful false teeth. Good evening. The whole thing. It's really great. And then in the Tom Hanks version, a cat screeches, and then he's at the door, and she opens the door. They take like an epic, iconic 2-minute introduction, and they do it in about 20 seconds. And it sucks.
It's weird that they would do less with one of the most striking bits of the original when you're remaking it. Like, it
immediately put me off because I was like, oh, no, you're starting on this foot? You're going to half-ass like one of the great things about it really upset me a lot. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Well, they actually do that, though. They do what you're talking about. They just drop it, and it's short. I kind of like that when I watched it.
You can't do it in 20 seconds. You can't make an iconic.
Well, I was like, oh, they're introducing him like he's like Leland Gaunt or something. I was very into that, that he's he's like a bad guy from Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I wish they'd done more with that kind of thing. Just sort of present him as this sort of malefic character, and they kind of just don't do it again after that. So I guess it's only there because it's a moment in the original film.
They're aping the original. Alec Guinness definitely has this almost I don't want to say Dracula. He's got like a monstrous thing to him. He's very verbose like this character, and he's charming, but you can see just behind the eyes he's such a piece of crap. And this Tom Hanks character, you don't really get that as much. Tom Hanks is more charming for most of the movie. Although there was one moment I loved when he's holding the violin and the dumb guy says, "Why don't we just go to church?" And he like plucks the violin like, ah! No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. If he doesn't feel aauthentically evil though enough to pull
He
off
doesn't.
that
He
sort
doesn't.
of
Alec Guinness
satanic
is
vibe of
oozing it, and Tom Hanks, to me, didn't. He felt mischievous, I guess.
This actually is a flaw in the Hanks performance, actually, that we've been somewhat praising this whole episode, is that, yeah, he doesn't seem dangerous. And that's partly the Coen's fault, but yeah, like he's not really able to play the villain maybe at this point.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
It feels like a pulled punch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Movie pulls 0 punches whatsoever. No Country for Old Men.
Wow.
Right up next,
That's
man.
coming next. Yeah.
What an about face.
That would be a fun movie to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, you got to do the Lady Killers. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back when we get to Terry Gilliam and we need somebody for Tideland.
Oh, joy. Yeah. This is a gag now, I can tell. Oh, this is great.
You got Collateral.
I did get Collateral. That's a good point. No, I'm serving penance, I guess.
All right.
All
So
right,
we'll
thanks.
talk to you again with Tideland. Thanks for listening to the Coen-Oscopy and our Lady Killers episode. Rate and read the podcast on the app. Blah, blah, blah.
Go to Crave.
Speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, where the tide's back.